If you were born between 1,955 and 1,960, stop what you're doing right now and watch this video all the way through. Because what I'm about to show you isn't a strategy most financial advisors talk about on television. It's a window, a narrow one, that closes the moment you decide to stop working. And most people don't even know it exists until it's already shut. I'm not going to waste your time with a long introduction. You've worked your whole life. You've paid into Social Security for 30, maybe 40 years. And at some point, maybe recently, you've started thinking seriously about whether 62 is the year you finally stop punching the clock. Maybe your knees are done. Maybe the commute is killing you. Maybe you're just ready. I understand that completely. And here's the thing I need you to understand in return. The decision you make about when to stop working doesn't just affect your monthly check. It permanently reshapes the financial foundation for everything that comes after, including what your spouse receives if you go first. That's not a small thing. That's the whole ball game. So let's walk through this together, step by step. Because once you see how this actually works, not how the brochure describes it, not how your neighbor summarized it at a cookout, you are going to see your situation very differently. The first thing we need to talk about is something almost nobody explains clearly. And it's the difference between your full retirement age and what happens when you claim early. Most people have heard of the penalty for claiming at 62. They know the check gets reduced. But they think of it the way you think of a small parking fine, mildly annoying, but not a big deal. That is not what this is. Let me do the math live so it lands. Say your full retirement age is 67. That's the case for anyone born in 1960 or later, and it affects most of the people watching this right now. And say your full benefit at 67 would be $2,000 a month. If you claim at 62 5 years early, the Social Security Administration reduces your benefit by 30%. Not temporarily, permanently. Your check drops from $2,000 to $1,400 a month. That's $600 a month less every month for the rest of your life. Over 10 years, that's $72,000. Over 15 years, it's $108,000. And here's what nobody tells you at the claims window. The cost of living adjustments, those annual inflation increases, they get calculated on top of your reduced base. So the lower you start, the lower every future adjustment is in real dollar terms. The gap between what you could have had and what you locked in doesn't just stay the same, it grows. Now, I want to be clear about something before we go any further. Everything I share in this video is educational. It's meant to help you understand how these systems work in general terms. Your situation is going to have details and variables that are specific to you, and I genuinely recommend sitting down with a Social Security or financial planning professional before you file anything. What I can do is make sure you walk into that conversation knowing the right questions to ask so you don't leave money on the table. Let me tell you about a man I'll call Robert. He's 63 years old, a retired electrician from Dayton, Ohio. He stopped working at 62 because his back had been giving him trouble for years and the physical work just wasn't sustainable anymore. He filed for Social Security the same month he retired because, in his words, why wait? He'd earned it. Robert didn't know. Nobody told him that in the first year you receive Social Security while still earning wages, the system can actually hold back part of your benefit if you earn above a certain threshold. He also didn't realize that the calculation the SSA uses to set your base benefit runs off your 35 highest earning years. Robert's last 3 years of work were some of his best income years. And by stopping at 62 instead of 64, he locked in a benefit that didn't fully reflect those final high earning years. He didn't do anything wrong. The system just doesn't explain this to you. Robert's situation is more common than most people realize. And it raises a question we're sitting with. What if stopping work at 62 and claiming Social Security at 62 are actually two different decisions that don't have to happen at the same time? This is the part almost nobody explains. You do not have to file for Social Security the moment you stop working. Those are two separate switches, and they don't have to flip at the same time. If you stop working at 62 because your body or your situation demands it, you have options. You might draw from savings, a 401k, or a pension to bridge the gap. You might have a spouse still working. The point is, stopping work and claiming your benefit can be, and often should be, two distinct decisions made on their own terms. Every year, you delay claiming Social Security past 62, up to age 70, your eventual monthly benefit grows. Between 62 and your full retirement age, the the increase for each year of delay is significant. In between full retirement age and 70, your benefit grows by 8% per year through what the SSA calls delayed retirement credits. 8% guaranteed on top of cost of living adjustments. That is hard to find anywhere else in a world where savings accounts are paying 3 or 4%. Social Security and tax rules change every year, and nobody from the government calls to explain what those changes mean for your specific situation. That's exactly what this channel is here for. If you're not subscribed yet, hit subscribe now and turn on the bell, because the videos I put out are built around the decisions people in your position are making right now. Now, here's where this gets more interesting and more urgent than just the math on your own check. And this is the point that hits the hardest for most people when they finally hear it. The decision you make about when to claim doesn't just follow you. It follows your spouse for the rest of their life. Here's how survivor benefits work. When one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse has the right to collect the deceased spouse's benefit, but only if it was higher than their own. And they receive that amount as it was when the deceased spouse claimed, locked in, with cost of living adjustments added on top, but built on that base. So if you claimed at 62 and locked in a benefit of $1,400 instead of $2,000, and your spouse outlives you, as statistically is more likely, your spouse may spend 10 or 20 years collecting based on your reduced benefit. The $600 a month you gave up didn't just affect you. It follows your husband or your wife through their widowhood. Let me show you what that looks like in real numbers. Say you would have received $2,000 a month at 67. You claimed at 62 and received $1,400. Your spouse has their own smaller benefit, say $900 a month. While you're both alive, your household brings in $2,300 a month from Social Security. That feels manageable. Now, say you pass away first, your spouse's own benefit, $900, gets replaced by your benefit, the higher of the two, but it's the benefit you locked in, $1,400, not $2,000. Your spouse's monthly income just dropped by $100 at a moment in their life when medical expenses are likely higher, when they're potentially living alone, when every dollar matters more than it did before. If you had waited until 67 and claimed $2,000, that surviving benefit would be $2,000. The difference is $600 a month for your spouse, potentially for 10 or 15 years. That's $72,000 over a decade. And it's money that doesn't come from any investment or savings account. It comes from a decision made years or even decades earlier. I'm not telling you that claiming at 62 is always wrong. There are real circumstances where it makes sense. Health is a major factor. If your family history suggests a shorter lifespan, the math shifts considerably. If you have no other income sources and stopping work means real hardship, the calculus changes. If your spouse has a large benefit of their own, the survivor dynamic is different. What I am telling you is that this decision deserves far more thought than most people give it, and the framing most people use, I've been paying in for 40 years, I'm going to start collecting what I earned, misses the full picture of what's actually at stake. Now let's talk about something that catches people by surprise when they're planning this transition, and it's what I'd call the earnings test shadow. If you claim Social Security before your full retirement age and you're still working even part-time, the SSA applies what's called the retirement earnings test. In 2024, if you earn above roughly $22,000 a year before reaching full retirement age, Social Security temporarily withholds $1 of benefits for every $2 you earn over that limit. A lot of people hear that and think, fine, I'll just stay under the limit. But here's what trips them up. Their part-time consulting work or their freelance income or their small business income pushes them over the threshold without them realizing it. And suddenly they're getting letters saying the SSA is withholding benefits they've already started depending on for their monthly budget. The good news, and this is genuinely good news, is that the benefits withheld during those years aren't simply gone. When you reach full retirement age, the SSA recalculates your benefit to give you credit for the months it was withheld. So you do eventually get that money back in the form of a slightly higher monthly benefit going forward. But that recalculation takes time to show up. And in the meantime, your monthly cash flow takes a real hit that many people aren't prepared for. There's also a version of this that people completely overlook when they're looking at a part-time job in early retirement. A few extra years of decent wages, even part-time wages, can actually increase your benefits slightly if those years replace lower earning years in your 35-year calculation. It's not dramatic, but if you're going to be working anyway, it's worth understanding. Let me bring this all together because I want to leave you with something concrete you can actually do with this information. First, request your Social Security statement. You can do this at the SSA's official website by creating a My Social Security account. That statement will show you your estimated benefits at 62, at your full retirement age, and at 70. It will also show you the earnings record the SSA is using to calculate those numbers. Mistakes on that record are not rare, and they cost you real money. Verify your earnings history. Every year matters. Second, think about whether stopping work and claiming your benefit are really the same decision for you, or whether there's a way to separate them. That conversation often comes down to what else you can draw on during a gap period, how your health looks, and what your spouse's benefit situation is. Third, if you're married, or if you're widowed and haven't reviewed your survivor benefit situation, put that at the top of your to-do list. The rules around spousal and survivor benefits are genuinely complicated, and there are strategies like one spouse claiming early while the other, delays that can significantly increase lifetime household income. A Social Security specialist or a fee-only financial planner who works with retirees can help you model the different scenarios for your specific ages and benefit amounts. One last thing before I go, and this comes from seeing what happens when people make this decision without the full picture. The system isn't broken exactly. Social Security does what it's designed to do. But it was designed in an era where people retired at a fixed age, lived shorter lives, and almost always had a pension as a backstop. The rules, the penalty for early claiming, the survivor benefit structure, the earnings tests were written in that context. They haven't been fully updated to reflect how retirement actually works now. When people stop working in stages, when one spouse works longer than the other, when the house is the main asset and Social Security is the main income. That gap between how the rules were written and how your life actually looks, that's the gap that costs people real money. Not because they did anything wrong, but because nobody sat down and explained it to them clearly, in plain language, before they filed. That's what I try to do here. Before you decide to stop working at 62, I want you to sit with one question. Not the question of whether you've earned it, you have, without question. But this one, what is the actual dollar cost per month for the rest of your life and your spouse's life of claiming now versus waiting? Not a general idea of the cost. The specific number in your specific situation, drop that number in the comments when you figure it out. Or drop where you are in this decision, whether you've already claimed, whether you're still weighing it, whether something in this video changed how you're thinking about it. I read every single one. And if you have a brother, a neighbor, a coworker who's talking about retiring at 62 and hasn't thought through the survivor benefit piece, share this with them. It might be the most useful thing they watch before they file. The window doesn't stay open forever, but you have more choices inside it than most people ever realize.